Hey, peace and blessings, family. Happy Sunday. Happy Lover's Day. How is everybody doing today? Welcome to Sunday Sitting with Sisters. I'm your host, Sister Ro. And I am so happy today to be joined by dear sister Alicia Smith. And today, welcome, sis.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you, Mama Ro.
So thank you. I'm so excited because today we're going to talk about infant mortality. And it's interesting because we're here on so-called Lover's Day, and it's going to be a lot of baby making today.
Okay.
You know, so so usually this is a topic sometimes it's kind of hard to talk about. I've experienced infant mortality myself, so it's something that we need to talk about it and to know what that is and how do we prepare ourselves or to learn more about it, because it happens and it happens to us far too often. Dear sister, what made you want to talk about this topic today?
Honestly, simply because it's in my work. So with me being a doula, that's actually what inspired me. My class, which discussed infant mortality rates, it was my public health class. It focused more on the rates of everybody. But when you look at the numbers, I'm like, well, maybe we should focus on certain different demographics because not everybody is fully affected by these rates or are adding up to these numbers. The numbers that are actually adding up to this being or becoming such a subtopic within maternal and infancy is because of African Americans. That's why it became such a subtopic or a topic to discuss because they noticed that our children were more likely not to live past the first year of birth. And that didn't sit well with me. But that also go into the arena of women not being heard when they're in labor or giving birth, especially Black women. We're not listened to as far as our pain tolerance. So all of that in a nutshell is what made me so interested in this topic, as well as me being a doula. So the infant mortality rates is what shook me. And then I'm like, okay, well, what can I do to make sure we're not having this? How can we educate and assist our sisters in understanding that, it's all within the first process of conceiving until you push. And even after that, that first year is very crucial. How do we actually educate and continue to band together and support those moms?
I know. So let's back up for a minute because most people may not even know what infant mortality is. I know when I first learned about it, I was 18 years old and I went to work for an organization called the Birthing Project, which was designed. It was started by Catherine Hall. She was a fiscal administrator at the state of California, and she noticed. And this was also when crack epidemic was raging at the time, and she really didn't understand why we were spending so much money on trying to keep babies alive that really wouldn't make it. And so she got the idea, like a Black woman would, is to gather up some of her sisters and try to match up these pregnant women with a community volunteer that they then deemed called sister friends. And so that really helped in terms of their social support because it didn't just buy if you had money, if you had more education. I mean, it just happens to us as Black women.
Right.
And most of us don't even know what infant mortality is and why we have it. Why is it so high for us? So could you tell us a little bit what infant mortality is?
Definitely. So infant mortality is the rate or is statistically proven as to be the rate of when a baby does not live in some states past the first or second year of birth. So some states push it out to the second year. They say that's still too young for a baby to be passing away. It could be off of birth defects, low birth weight, preterm baby, so you didn't carry to your full 9 terms. You can have pregnancy complications, like you have high blood pressure. You have blood sugar issues, so you're also a diabetic, and sudden infant death syndrome. So you can definitely just have your baby just not make it or properly not allowing them to sleep in certain areas. And then there's some parents that were just not equipped or ready. So injuries. So we don't like to talk about those, but there's some moms, I'm sorry, or some parents that, instead of giving their baby up for adoption, they try, but end up injuring or harming their child all in the end. So that rate comes from your baby dying within the first or second year, within the first 1 to 2 years off of those different things that I just listed. So birth defects, low birth weight, pregno complications, all of those factor into infant mortality rate or those specific areas.
So what do you think some of the factors are in our babies dying? Because our babies die 2 to 3 times higher, depending on where you are in the country, other children, period. So it's not an up color issue. that we love to throw out, but they're specifically happening to Black women.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think some of those factors are or barriers, and why it's so high with Black women?
I can get very deep on that. I feel as though the system is gunning for Black women, but I won't try and take it there. But
No,
definitely
take it all the way
take
where
it
you
there.
need to take
Okay.
it.
So I feel as though the system, I don't know the name of the woman that created Planned Parenthood, but Planned Parenthood was made for us. That was definitely made for us. I can't remember the name of the woman because to me she's not important. I'm not going to even give you
Right.
value to your name. But the white woman that created Planned Parenthood to make sure that we had a place to be able to abort our children, that was the first standing of them not caring about us creating or continue cultivating who we are and bringing more children into this world. So with that, knowing that simple fact, then you have to look at the actual individuals, the doctors, the midwives that we have that are not trained for our culture. So they're not going to actually listen to us, provide us the wonderful standard of care that we deserve, that our actual people would. So it's the standard of care. There's no reason. It's the standard of care, the lack of support, and stress. Those are my 3 opinions. Standard of care, lack of support, and stress.
Well, let's back up. We're going to start with your 3 then. So this standard of care, can you expound on that a little bit? What do you mean when you say standard of care?
The fact that cultural competency just came about within the recent years. The fact that cultural competency became a standard or a lecture or a workshop, what in 2009 maybe? I may be pushing it back a little bit, maybe 2005, give them a little bit of credit. But cultural competency and understanding the different cultures and not just having westernized medicine be built around the foundation of who you want to see succeed, which is, sorry to say it, white women, people who you believe is prestige and above, and look at those who are inferior as, well, you can do it. You've been doing it. It's still that slave system in regards to how our care is being provided to us. The doctors don't listen. I have had, where I work currently is at a call center where I book appointments for pregnant women, for all types of individuals. It does not matter. And the things that I hear from these women as far as, well, I don't want to go to that health education class. I don't have a ride. And yeah, there's programs in place, but the programs are not fully sustaining what we need. So if you're going to have this program called Ankh Sisterhood that's supposed to definitely benefit the Black community, then make sure you have transportation for those sisters to get to those classes if they need so. Because again, our culture sometimes doesn't have the transportation, may not be fully devoted or want to go. Make it fun, change it up, then have it where, oh, it's going to be a sister's education class. It's more so they're not thinking outside the box when it comes to the type of people we are. Because you got to grab our attention. So that standard of care I'm talking about is just wanting to help, not stereotyping or being prejudiced when you see somebody walk in the room. Well, this is her 5th child. She should get the swing of it by now. No. Oh, this is, doesn't look like she take care of kids anyway. It looks like there's a couple CPS cases. No, that's not standard. It doesn't matter. How you know she doesn't want to change her life with this birth? How you know that she's still not a bomb or fantastic woman or mom? It's when I say standard of care, I'm talking about being relatable, being a person, being a human, and treating that other person as though they are your mother, your sister, your wife. Not looking at them as, oh, let me just look at their skin color and be like, well, we don't need no more of these type of people here. That's what I mean, because that's how doctors come off. I've heard many of stories on YouTube, different radio shows, talk to different women who actually have felt that way. And sometimes it usually be the nurses too. Oh, they definitely don't want to help. Well, this ain't about, again, I think I mentioned it on the last show we had. A nurse came in and said, well, this is above you. This is about the child. Well, the child can't be here without the mom. So how is this above her?
Right on.
It's just that, again, standard is a word that means going above and beyond, meeting the qualities of which the institution upholds, and care, simple, just to be kind, to give your best effort, to help with open arms and with love. So the standard is not there. And if that's a standard for the institution or the hospital, then y'all need to raise your standards a little bit. And care is just being a caring human being. That's what I mean.
It's interesting hearing you talk. God, I birthing project I think I worked there for like 25 years, but
Mm.
it was open since, well, the Birthing Project started as a program in 1988. And the reason why I bring up the Birthing Project, I think one of the things that sometimes we do in our community, we don't
Mhm.
do stuff from a root. We act like we just discovered something. Not
Yeah.
all of us, but you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so they started in 1988 as the program. But then one day, my ex boss said she went to a doctor's appointment with her woman that she was mentoring, and the doctor was treating this girl not so good. But because my boss was a very good advocate, of
Mhm.
course she went in. That's what.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
she had the thought, like, we just got to build our own clinic.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have to do it. And so people were taking bets that we would never open the clinic, but we ended up getting a building that had asbestos and all kind of stuff. But we made it through, and we had a clinic, and it was open for about 25 years. But as always, we struggle with legacy building as Black people.
Mhm.
How do we
Mhm.
pass things on? But I also think if you knew the history of this country, we can never rely on the people who've been trying to get rid of us to take care of us. And so for me, it's always like, what do we do as Black folks? Because you know what I really don't like? I hate it when people, you know, um, see a Black woman that's pregnant. And I've experienced this with Black folks. And I think for me, the way my brain is wired, I don't give a damn about what white people is doing. I don't care nothing about what they're doing. I'm just gonna be
Okay.
honest with you. I will check them, don't get it twisted, but
Mhm.
I don't expect for them to be fair, or I just don't
Right.
expect.
Or understand. So
Yeah, right. So, but do they need to? Because they getting paid.
yeah.
That's my tax dollars. So I'm saying that. But what I'm saying is, I hate it in our community when somebody says, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and one of the responses would be, "Again," or because all of that is energy. Like when I see somebody's pregnant, I get excited. Like, "Oh my
Mhm.
God, what you gonna have? Oh, how you feeling?"
Right.
Like it's you. You supposed to act like she carrying Jesus. That's what you.
Okay. Right.
That's how you're
Basically.
supposed to act. And I
Mhm.
don't care if she's homeless. I don't care what her situation is. You
Mhm.
know, we should be acting like that's another one of us coming. We should
Uh-huh.
be hyped to the, like,
Okay.
man, what you need, sis? Like
Right.
that's what you're supposed to be floating on the cloud when you're pregnant, to me.
Yes.
You're supposed to be feeling so good because if we really understood what it took for you to even conceive against all of the stresses. I remember once being a part of a study at the Birthing Project where they looked at Black women from other countries
Okay.
than African American women.
Yeah.
And the women from other countries' infant mortality rate wasn't as high until they got here.
Mhm.
And so you have to factor what's the difference between you squatting by a tree or wherever you live at,
Mhm.
in your other countries to
Mhm.
have a good birth outcome. But when you come here, immediately you're met with something else different, which makes your infant mortality go up.
Mhm.
And so I think a big part of it definitely is always racism.
Mhm.
But I think there's some things that we can do. So for me, when I'm going to the doctors and a Black person steps into the room for my care, I
Mhm.
immediately feel a little better. Like,
Mhm.
you know what, sis? And then when they talk to me like they know who I am,
Yeah.
I feel good about it.
Okay. That's
You know
that.
what I mean? And so I'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, because I've had a few Black OBGYN doctors who were so solid, and then I could be solid with them. Like, let me tell you what's
Right.
going on with me for real. And
Okay.
they'd be like, are you stressed? Are you? And I'll be like, yeah, I kind of, because they
Yeah.
can feel that. And I
Mhm.
think all of that adds to your value of life. And
Yes.
I think we struggle with that.
Mhm.
We struggle with people seeing us and seeing the value of us.
And that's why I said lack of support was my second.
Yeah, lack
Yeah.
of support.
Lack
Lack
of
of support.
support.
So I know there's a lot of doulas, there's a lot of midwives, there's a lot of what they call birth workers. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if those are doulas as well because I think people have different ways.
They
Yeah.
put they put them together. So when they say
Okay.
birth worker, they're usually like they have like more than one under their belt. So then they have like a doula, they're working to become a midwife, and they're a lactation consultant. So they literally focus just on birth. They are a birth worker.
And even with that, like a lot of my friends are midwives. Some of my best friends are midwives.
Mhm.
Shout out to Asatu and Javon Muhammad. But I also know to be a midwife, you need some other kind of support because you don't see a lot of us in those programs because you have to have a support system to get through that.
Yes.
Like to go to births and then take that time off
Yeah.
to do that kind of work. And so, how do you think we can support Black women and girls when they're pregnant like that? I'm saying girls because we still got our babies
We
having
do.
babies. But how do we support them?
First, we support each other. So first, we as Black women who are birth workers, who are light workers and doulas and midwives, we band together. You know how they have the green book? We need a doula or a birth worker book. We need a birth worker book so that we can have those, because I was actually in a Clubhouse conversation, because Clubhouse is this new.
Oh, girl, I know all about it.
Okay,
I've been up all night, child. I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I'm getting off this thing. Stop it. I'm going to go to bed.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's really how it is. I love Clubhouse.
It's like having guests at your house, but you could just put it, you can take yourself out the room.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. But I was in this Clubhouse conversation. One of my mentors, Brittany Curry, she's amazing, a wonderful doula out in North Carolina. She's currently building her home again with all her children. She's always into home birth. Yeah, that's my girl. Shout out to Brittany Curry. So she had this conversation because she's currently going through midwife school. And she basically just had individuals who were taking different routes. I think one is like an LPN, where you can actually like, you don't have to do the nursing or do the 2 years before going into the midwife program, all of that stuff. And so they were just talking about how hard it is to actually find somebody to deliver or get their births with, because it's just so many women who are not us. And it's like they have their way of doing things, or they only want to show you, well, you take really detailed notes. Oh, no, I want you to do all this work. Like there was this one girl who was like, the lady was like, well, how much do you want for me to sign off on your papers? Because she would tell her, oh, I'll sign them all at the end. And basically was asking her, well, how much would you pay for me for my signature on all your documents so that you can become a midwife? So it's like we get into these pushbacks with these individuals who don't want to see us within their programs. So I believe in order for us to support the individuals that are having babies, or sisters that are pregnant, our young sisters who get pregnant, we need to first support each other. We need a book or some type of source where we can go to and be like, well, you're thinking about practicing here. Well, I know of this sister here and she's currently taking clients. Or I know of this sister here and she's currently taking clients. Like we need to get more, I think, in the spirit of, like you said, opening our own. So not looking for those who are working in hospitals, who are working at certain institutions, but those who have started and got it out the mud and have their little LLC or have their little business in a little small knit place downtown. We need to start supporting each other as Black women opening these businesses, because that's my goal. I want to open me a wonderful birthing house and I want it to be built just like a house, where it's ramps so we can go upstairs. The rooms are massive. They're master bedrooms. There's big tubs. There's little areas downstairs. There's a kitchen in case so somebody can teach you how to cook and juice for your child. I want something where it's back to what we originally were doing. Having that support. Well, today's just been hard and he's not listening, or I don't know what to do with this because my mom doesn't like, well, here, go talk to, I think I have a community member right here that could talk to you and let you know. Like, that's what we need to start doing. We need to get back to not the basics, but back to our foundation of being in support of one another. We're not in competition. If we get the competition out the way and look at it as to what it is, we are people of color who everybody else is in competition with. We don't need to be in competition with each other.
Right. So we know historically that the other thing is that, because for me, I'm always a root person. We know that historically Black women have always been midwives helping babies to get here when it wasn't fashionable.
Okay.
We already, I mean, at least some of us know. I'm convinced sometimes that some of us don't know anything, but a lot of us do know that, there's always been Black granny midwives. I mean, that's what they calling them now. But I also think when you build something, you got to have somewhat of a structure or a foundation, if you will. And I think our babies dying, because I think also too that infant mortality word feels so generic. You know what I mean? There's nothing generic about a child dying. And I think I remember my ex-boss used to say she used that term every day of her professional career, and not until she held a dead body in her hands did she really understand what that word meant. Sometimes we desensitize words, because it's like we say it like infant mortality, but also dead Black babies are big businesses for people because it means nothing to them because it's not their child dying. You know what I mean? Or sometimes I feel like we got to dig deeper if we want to make sure there's generations to come for us.
Yeah.
But how do we? I think it goes right back to how we're being treated, period, as Black girls and women.
Yes.
Because all of that lives in your womb, and then your child be fighting to live in the womb with those. Like we have more fibroids, or I remember being in the clinic and always treating women for the same STDs that they got from their significant other, and every time they would come in, we were like, and then sometimes we would treat him because if we don't treat him, she's gonna get it again, and that's why there has to be some kind of merging in there. Because she is attached to a man because that's how she got here. I mean, that's how she came to us pregnant.
Right.
But I think we do this compartmentalizing with infant mortality, and we're like, we just gotta do something with the mama to save the baby. But it's so much bigger than just saving the baby because the baby has to come in the vessel. So the vessel gotta be. It's like be sleeping in a dirty ass bed and wondering why. You know what I'm saying? I got bug bites. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I just feel like it's such a bigger discussion of what we can do to lower that infant mortality rate. And I really believe even when we were enslaved in this country, is that there's a way that we still welcome life. Even though we didn't have much to give, the way people think of it.
Like you said, we celebrated it so big. Like it's the joy because I do the same thing. I see somebody, I'm like, oh my goodness, do you mind if oh wow, do you know what you're having? Like that's me. I'd be excited. I'm like, another one. Okay, cool. But the person that I won't say idolize, but that I definitely look up to is Biddy Mason. With everything that she's done. And that's why I'm like, that's my foundation of the history. So when I say I want to open something, just because I know that's the steps that came before me. Like you can't tell me somebody who's able to collect and put on down a strip in LA. Come on now. The first Black woman to have a strip in LA and also be somebody that's bringing people into this. Okay. Well, then since I'm from this same land, can you rub off on me? Touch my feet, sister. Let me walk barefoot real quick so I can feel that, because that's where I'm coming from. So when I'm looking at
did she walk from with her owners because she was, to California? I mean,
yep. So that's all I'm like, walk with her owners for that freedom, and it's just like, and then like, here you go, and she's like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do with it. If you want to talk about flipping something, this is how you flip something. You know what I'm saying? If you really want to talk about flipping, that's how you flip and maneuver, and you do it for your people, and that's what like. I don't do it just to say, oh, I did this or, accolades. I do it because I see there's a disconnect. That's where the disconnect started as far as Black families. Again, if we want to go back, we want to go back. They disconnected us. So I want to bring us back together. But if I do, in my opinion, in order to do that, I want to make sure the woman is whole. So then, because, men will follow. Men will follow. It's just, are you whole? Okay, cool. Watch. Well, then maneuver this way and let's see how he comes with you. And see how you can bring him once you become whole, Right
on. I'm right there with you, sis. Do you think, how do I phrase this? I'm talking to you. It's like, I'm thinking it's when you get older and time rolls by, you're like, we doing the same shit. We in the same. That's what it kind of feels like. Yeah. So I remember my ex-boss saying, when you look at Black women's health around mortality or maternal or whatever, there's always a white woman that's over it. For us, how do you feel when you see that? Whether if it's first five or, do you think there needs to be a shift in who's in control of whose stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to say it in a nice way because I don't want, white people always think, but what about me? It's like, dude, slavery was all about you feeling okay with yourself.
Okay.
At the expense of other people.
Okay. Right.
But what do you think about that?
It bothers me, especially when it's older white women. I'm just like, how old are you? Are you 60? Ain't nobody not like that, but I'm just saying, like,
no, I get you.
You got some, like, can we get somebody that's a little bit more, maybe 40? And even then I'm just like, well, you're doing it just to like get extra, in my eyes. Is that extra grant money you're looking for? Like, I feel like there's always something underlying with that. And then again, is it are you really hoping that the program is successful, or are you just doing it again for show? So that's how I look at it, because I'm like, history shows us that you don't really care. So now I want to know, all right, is this for show? Do you really enjoy doing this? So now I'm gonna ask you all the questions and be like, oh, okay, well, how many mothers have you helped out personally yourself? Or, oh, well, that's not my line of work. Well, it needs to be somebody who actually has done the work, needs to be there. You know, I want somebody that's actually done the work to be sitting in the seat, to be given the cause and direction, because then they know how it's supposed to be maneuvered and calculated and, you know, tasked out. I don't care for it. I'm not, again, what did Issa Rae say? I'm rooting for everybody Black. So I would prefer everybody that is people of color. I'll take somebody that's Latino. I'll take a Native American. I will take an Arab. I'm not sure if that's the correct term for it. Excuse me if it's not, but I will take somebody that is a descendant of color, preferably over anybody that's white.
I don't. So, no, I agree with you. I think what I'm getting at, and this is what I learned from my ex-boss. I learned a lot of things from her, but she used to always say, like, white women, sometimes they get to have certain privileges because their man think that they deserve to be in that spot. Now, sometimes it feel like we don't get that from our counterpart. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So she's always going to be over the women's health this and the women's league this and the women's, you know, but yet, you know, there was a time when Black folks, I think maybe more again, because I think like every 25 to 30 years or so, we start coming into, we need to do something for ourselves, and then when we do that, then somehow white people feel like, no, we need y'all over here. Because, you know, when we leave things, the party leaves, like the energy leaves. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then we give up what we have to be with them. You know what I mean? Or a systematic way of trying to destroy us, whatever. But I'm like, do you ever think it's possible for Black people to really govern themselves in this particular area called infant mortality? Do you think we're capable of doing that, of basically saving ourselves?
Yes, we just have to put pride, ego aside and work together. But again, like I said, like you said, the root of things. We like talking about root. I love going back into history. You know, Black Wall Street. What do you mean? Like when we elevate ourselves, yes, they're gonna try and come and tear it down. But if we really believe in this and we see if it's an issue, because if it spikes higher, there's an issue. And it's been growing over the last course of years. So I believe we can do it. It would just take some time, some really deep healing as well, and a good group. And when I say a good solid group, it has to be, I think, at least 50 just coming together and saying, we can do this. We can knuckle down. We can do this. We can travel. We can educate. We can support. We can teach about stress. We can teach about the importance of life, the importance of being a mom, the importance of being a wife, a lover, because all of those encompass the importance of family. It's many different things that individuals do not seek that are important simply because they're just like, oh, well, that wasn't taught to me. That's not how my mama did. Okay, well, change it. Change it. Because this is not working. This is not. And that's why I tell people I work so hard to make sure babies are coming in this world alive, because they're taking us away day by day. They're taking somebody's child day by day. So yes, I want to work to make sure that we make it past this first year. Okay, we make it past this second year and beyond. I want to make sure it's fully sustainable.
You said something that
this child is sustainable, and we really need to work together. But in order to do that, pride and ego got to get out the way. You got to say, hey, I don't know that. Don't mind being educated, listen to elders. Don't mind getting wisdom from somebody who's probably younger, just because they are very dedicated and devoted. So they study and study and study. I have no problem saying, I have no idea what that is. Teach me. Some people don't like that, especially when they're like, oh, I've been doing this for what you. Okay, well, do you know this? Oh, no, what's that? You know, it's like, or people who aren't even in it. Oh, well, I did this. Oh, did you? Well, that sounds like you know something about it. Would you be interested? You know, you never know by just giving somebody kudos on the information and knowledge they have. Just bring it in. It's team effort. It's a team effort.
So you said something, Ski. We're gonna back up just a little bit. The
Yes.
importance of family. Let's start right there.
Mm-hmm.
So in your perfect will, sister,
Mm-hmm.
how would you recommend for Black girls in particular?
Mm-hmm.
How can we start to teach them or groom them or nurture them and really care? Because your what's to say your our life expectancy for our life expectancy really depends on how we treat it, even like from the womb forward.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come into the world and you happen to fight just to come into the world,
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. But then once they're here, what are things we can do to improve things for girls
Mm-hmm.
and their development? Because I think there's something right there, like as Black girls, they don't get a lot of things. Like we always have a way of, well, girl, you should take it. Or if you grew up where you took a lot of stuff because you were a girl, then you kind of pass that on. How do we begin to nurture our girls to make sure that they're feeling like because they are like sacred portals. Is this
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't trip off of people whatever they think what makes a girl. What
Yeah.
I know is that when you're born and you are a female,
Mm-hmm.
you have the ability of bringing someone from one world to another.
Mm-hmm.
That's called a portal.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a wound, you have a portal. But how do we treat the portal? Do we treat it like shit? Do we treat it like we don't care? Is it like your messy kitchen? Is it like your dirty garage? Or do we treat it like it's like your car that you just bought and you want to keep that new car smell? Or do you wash the car every 3 days? Or how that's what it really means to be a girl. How can we start to to nurture our girls so they can see the sacredness in themselves?
First, with this, I believe this generation, we have to match their language. So, treat it like it's that Birkin bag. Treat it like it's that Birkin bag that you want so much, or treat it like it's those red bottoms or them Steve Maddens you love so much. You have to talk to them in a language that they'll understand. And I am definitely a fan of rites of passage. I believe that definitely gives young girls an understanding of their power that they hold. Especially if they're hearing so much negative talk about, oh, you can't do that, or like again, like you said, oh, you're pregnant again, or that's all he wants from you anyway. You don't look good, or you know what I'm saying, things of that nature. That negative talk that you hear so much because all people see is, and I tell people beauty is pain, beauty is a curse. I was like, because it comes a lot with it. I was like, and you have those individuals who just push like, oh, this beauty aspect. No, you have a soul, you have character, you have something within you. So I'm a firm believer in rites of passage. I think that helps cultivate young girls into phenomenal women. It gives them different ideas about who they are. It helps them understand that, even though you're going through this, you don't stay there. And it gives them a group because you're going through that rites of passage with other women other girls that look like you. And the individuals that are helping you through that passage are Black, that are women, grown women that look like you. And you look at them in awe. Like when I heard about the rites of passage and I went to my healing retreat, I was just like, I felt like a shy little girl. And I'm like, I'm 25 over here like this, like I'm somebody's baby. But they see that. So they massaging my hands like it's all right. They rubbing on my shoulders like, release that. It's okay. You're loved here. And I feel like we're missing so much of that. And I feel that way just because, again, I may not have any kids, but I've always felt such a disconnect from either other women, or it was just always competition. So I always had to be like this, like aggressive or mean, or, don't smile too much because I'll take your kindness for weakness, or don't sing when you're talking because then you sound ditzy. It's like, well, that's me, but I like doing that stuff. Like, and so now I'm just like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. But it took for me to miss the rites of passage to see what it looked like, to be like, that's what I needed. I needed a cultivated group to be going through the same things that I'm going through and just show me that just because they said that, that is not who you are. Just because they did this, that is not who you are. Let me show you who you are. Let me show you how to take care of yourself and be you. And the girls that I see that have gone through rites of passage, they're so free. And when I say free, it's like free in their mind and just they know, oh, I want to shave my head today. And I'm still gorgeous. Eyeshadow on. Oh, let's try the lashes. okay, I'm gonna stand out here. It's just that whole energy of embodying everything that they are, everything that their sisters are too, because they know it's not just them. So it's that connection. We need more tribes out here. And when I say tribes, sister tribes, we need more catering to our young girls. We need to cater to them. We need to cater to them, especially in a world especially in California, where it's a dog eat dog world. Again, a lot of mixed races. So you're already told that you're not cute unless your hair is down your back. And that's not true. Baby, if you don't bounce to knock that up and take it out and okay, rock that for it's that. It's that standing firm. They need that because they don't have it here. We're so highly looked down upon, but so highly imitated. It's sad.
That's real talk. That's real talk. Do you work with young girls? Because I feel like it has to be in the culture for Black folks. Because what you're talking about is an experience. I love rites of passage, been through several, life-changing. Yeah. But I also realize, like, even when I'm around people and sometimes they'll be trying to throw shade on me, I get away from them so quick. Like, my job is not to change your ass. I'm not doing it. I just don't have the energy for it. But I also know that because I like to be in a culture where I'm supported.
Right.
That was one of the reasons when I was young, I didn't go to the club because I don't want to go to the club waiting for somebody to ask me to dance. Like, come on. And it'd be the ugliest of other people, and they be just because they are, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Like, you tend not to be like, I can't mess with y'all. I love y'all, but I don't feel like being abused today. I don't want to do that. That's a lot of energy because when people throw darts at you, it could be, you get tired of doing this shit all day. Like, like I don't want to do that. So what can we do, or what do you do when you think about let's just go to high school years. Let's look into high school years.
Okay.
What was your high school years like? And did you experience that upliftment every day?
My high school experience was amazing. People used to tell me all the time, like, my sister to this day, she's like, you was popular. I was like, was I? But no, my high school experience was amazing. But that's because I didn't know who I was, but I knew who I was. And it's a cold world. I hate to say that, but I had my girls. Like, again, my mom and my papa didn't want me to be big, so I walked 5 miles every day. So 2.5 to school, 2.5 from home, depending on if my mama wanted to pick me up. And so I always had my troop. Everybody know when we came to school because we were always 7, sometimes 10 deep. So like it would be me. I would go pick up my homegirl Russia. Deja would probably get dropped off at Russia, so I picked them two up. Shay mama would drop her off at the green belt because it's on her way to work. Shay walked down. Shay be walking with us. Then we go get Missy. And then, we'll probably link up with Dina and LaShante at the light because they're going to wait for us from after, going to get McDonald's. Like, that's just how we maneuvered as far as walking. So it's like, it's crazy because I had my kind of rites of passage through that because we just talk and, cut up and be like, girl, let me tell you how this, da-da-da. Why didn't she come to the party last night? Because I knew Woody would be there. So like things of that nature. But we always held each other down. We went to Girl Scout meetings, and then I'm the one that's hecka active. So my friends tell me all the time, you're the one that kept us involved, because that was me. My mom wanted me to go to school or college, which I did. And so I'm in BSU, on the step team. What else? Key Club. So my friends be like, I need community service to graduate. Oh, Key Club has this event. You want to ride with me this weekend? What else did I do? I played softball, and then Girl Scouts came about. And, they like that because it's like, a black face or like, a black woman, we could do this. So, they would come, and that was our getaway. Like, we had sleepovers. I still got pictures. Like, I'm at my auntie's house now. I could probably pull up some, but that was my experience. It was, I already had my tribe. And then I had the Tongans that was cool with me. And, the Asians call me they gangsta, like, oh, my gangsta girl. Like my other hood friends would call me Bougetto because in class they was like, she bougie, don't talk to her, she getting her work done. But outside of class, oh, there she go, ghetto. Like, so and I tell people it's crazy. I talk about duality so much now, but I was practicing that so much in high school because I'm like, I know how to maneuver in any room I step into. My tone may not be this way. May be this way in a room full of black people, but the moment if you see me in a boardroom and you hear my tone change, that does not mean I'm changing up. It just means I'm considering myself for the environment. You know what I'm saying? So high school for me was definitely it was my girls. That's all I tell people all the time. My girls, my girls, my girls. Russia, Deja, Missy, Lashante, Dina, Zakia, like Shay.
What
So
school did you
many.
go to?
I went to Monterey Trail High School.
Okay, Monterey
Yeah.
Trail.
And I was like, but before it, changed to whatever it is now, because I go back, I'm like, I don't see no black kids. Okay, I don't want to mentor here then. You know what I'm saying? So it's changed over the years, but when I say it was full of us, it was full of us. Like, the boys are still crazy.
So in the midst of all of that, which you
Mhm.
shared, at any time did y'all ever talk about pregnancy or infant mortality or your
No,
womb being sacred?
no, we didn't know none of that. We didn't know anything about that. We weren't thinking about having kids. If we, I think at least one of my homegirls was a virgin, and the rest of us was just, we wasn't willy-nilly like that. We wasn't fast, or we like to party, so we like to have fun, but we wasn't thinking about nothing like that. And it wasn't a conversation that was talked about,
Right.
Sometimes even ask my mom, I was like, well, Mom, when did you have a conversation with me about making sure, this thing get to nobody and stuff like that? And because I'm like, I don't even remember like the conversations being fully heavy in my own home. But again, my mom worked 2 or 3 jobs. So when can she have the conversation to say, make sure you take care of that, make sure you treat that right? And like, did she know? You know what I'm saying? Or, does she know? And I'm not mad at her for that. I'm not mad at nobody. Time and the things that we have to do in order to survive, that sometimes takes away from what we should really be teaching our kids. And that's why I'm probably so bent on homeschooling, just for that reason.
Right on.
I don't have kids right now for that reason, because I'm like, I have a plan. I want to make sure I can stick to my plan, because I don't want no more of this. I don't want to bring my chocolate daughter, my chocolate son, or whatever they is into this world and know that, I can fully be devoted to elevating their mind, developing their mind, and developing their character too. Because sometimes, people aren't so dedicated to their kids that they can develop and become other people's kids or other people, because, they're going out and being around their friends and so much. So I want to make sure they have a firm, steady foundation with me. So when they go out, they won't falter, shake, or wither, or change it to a different direction.
Right on. I brought up the thing about the wound and that as a part of the conversation, because it's not like only talk about it when you're pregnant or you're sexually active, but it's something very sacred about that. And I think sometimes that very thing that make us female, we don't look at it unless we need it or something is happening to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why we start using other words to describe what it is instead of saying its name. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just feel like we need to figure out somehow how to introduce that. Because if something, like, say, for instance, this is no disrespect, say if there was a boy and he wanted to be a girl, immediately we would make room for him to feel like a her. But we do not do that with Black girls. We really do not. We do not make space for her to be her. You know what I mean? We never explain to them what it really means to be a carrier. That it don't mean that you have to be sexually active or it's a bad thing or traumatic, but it's like you're carrying a womb, baby. So you like to. I think we have to normalize that. The same way we do when we get our hair done, and the things that we think are beautiful or the things we put value on, we have to put value on that.
Yeah. And so that's why I say come and talk to the sisters as they would understand, like if we're talking to them, like, we'll treat it like it's that Birkin bag you want so much. Like, they love to dance and twerk. So, all right, while you're doing that, hold on to this space right here. How can you do that like that? Like, not to, gyrate on camera, but that's like, again, Mama Nia, good to see you and having you. But yes, talking to our Black children in urban communities is definitely important. And I'm speaking of everything that Mama Nia and her sisters talk about so heavily, is in regards to, are you centered within that piece? Are you, you can do all that, but do you know where it's coming from? Do you know where that movement is coming from? So make it something, in my opinion, that's interesting to this generation. They like to dance. They like to make TikTok videos. Well, can you do one that says, I have a womb. It creates this. It creates this. Make it interesting for the kids nowadays. And that's what I'm not a mentor yet, but I'm working on it. So I've reached out to somebody in the community. He mentors Black boys. And I was like, can you connect me with somebody? Because I'm ready to talk to the girls out here. I was like, because there's a girl in my neighborhood who skates, and she seen me skate, and she was like, you know how to skate? I was like, no, I'm 27 and it left me. Can you teach me? And I talked to her now and she's like, hey, Disha. I'm like, hey, Kiki. And that's all it takes. Sometimes you got to meet people where they're at, talk to them how it is, again, familiar, going back to that standard of care. So if you can come to me in that familiar place, then I know I can trust you. The trust has been broken. Because it's like, if I can't trust my home, which a lot of girls can't trust their home environment, where can I or who can I trust to besides myself? Or then I have to trust somebody on the street that I'm meeting. So,
you know, I only said I'm just always interested in the normalizations. I think as people get old, everything you're saying is something that somebody said 30 years ago, somebody said 6 years. This generation is always this generation. How do we normalize things so that it makes it through all of the generations? You know what I mean? Like teen pregnancy, we've been having babies since the slavery as teenagers. So we've always had teen pregnancy. Right. You know, gang violence, let's be honest, there's been gang violence at least since the 60s forward. You see what I'm saying? And that's like more than, 60, 70 years ago now. So we've always had these, what I'm always concerned with, how do we normalize the sacredness of the womb? Because I think that would impact infant mortality.
It would.
I think that's one way we can kick his ass. Because I'm not depending on white people to come up with some program called culture broker. And it's like, well, who the hell came up with that? Like, we're not cowboys. You don't broker black people. See, that itself is offensive, but that's just me. Because culturally brokering, I mean, come on, like, listen to the word. Why can't we have something soft like Latinos have when they have a word that means this person's going to help you through your pregnancy? Why we don't have one like that? Why you let somebody just stamp us with something called culture brokering?
That's because we haven't normalized it in our community. We don't talk about the womb enough. Even when I say the womb or having conversations about it, and definitely have a conversation on their level. We just have to. We have to make it normal conversation at the kitchen table. It's just a conversation in the home, like, yeah, so I'm doing this for my womb this week. And so that's just how I talk now. Ever since our last conversation, I'm like, because I'm tired of cervix and this is just not a vagina. So for my womb today, I'm doing a Yoni's theme. For my womb today, I'm going to my dance class. For my womb today, I'm going on a walk because she needs to get some light. She wants to sit and ground. You know, for my womb today, this is what I'm doing. It needs to become like, that conversation. And even at the doctor's office, they can say, well, we have to wait for this. I was like, well, yeah, I've been working on my womb and doing this for her and stuff like that, and even if they look at you like type of sideways, continue your conversation. They'll pick up what you're talking about in a minute. They'll get it if they really are, a doctor like they say they is, because womb is used interchangeably within textbooks as well. So it's used, but they like the cervix and vagina more.
Yeah.
But we have to actually start speaking on it within our own communities. That's why I'm like, if I get a bunch of girls, they're going to know what a womb is, because I'm going to make sure this is how you take care of that. Your center. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, let's skate and talk about it. Or let's take a walk. Y'all want to go out where y'all going this weekend? All right, I'll take you, but you're going to listen to me while I talk in this car.
Right on. And the reason why I said that is that I think then as that woman or girl, has a child, it would mean something very different. It's not like I'm pregnant. It's more like I'm with child. There's a different energy on it. I mean, I don't care what generation you're from. There's a different thing when you feel like, like, wow, like I'm saying, did you feel your baby move? Like I just be like, oh my God, are you hungry? Like, I just be like, this is so awesome. And sometimes the person be feel like it don't feel awesome because they got all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it means something when we treat everybody like they marry. That's the best way I can put it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's just very different. And so what you're talking about in terms of having a relationship with your womb, I just feel like even though it doesn't stop racism, it doesn't stop poor care, you know what I mean? But there is something about what I know about Black women is that the spirit of when we're determined that you're going to make it, you're going to make it.
Yes. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? There is something that you can't deny it. So I want Black women to feel like we need whatever you bringing forward.
Okay.
And it is our job as a community that the baby gets here.
That part.
That's our whole duty.
Because that was our duty before. So
Yeah.
that's still our duty now. That was our duty before, and that's still our duty now.
Somebody could be so mad at you, and you say you're pregnant, they'd be like, oh, well, after that baby, man, you're gonna have to have some words. But right now, what you need? You know what I mean? Because that's what we do. It's like, I'm mad at you, but the baby, so that's your saving grace, girl. We got the baby's coming. We gotta make sure you. I mean, there was a time where I think that's all we had. Right. Like to lift us up in that moment, the blessings and the hope of a new life coming, maybe to see things we never gonna see.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what we've always had. But I feel like we can't wait for these other people to save us because they're not going to do it. I think when they look at Black people, and I'm just being very honest, if you were a descendant of people who were enslaved, they look at like this is some evidence of a bad crime. Mm. Nobody wants to see that coming. Like, man, don't bring that shit back up. Right. So every time they see us, it comes back up for them. Yeah. Because we there like we still here, boo.
Right. But they brought it upon themselves, so it's like you asked for it, didn't you?
Yeah, but we're here because we the bomb. I want us to. I don't know. I look at infant mortality and I just feel like, damn, like we 35 years later. I'm speaking for myself, and we still dealing with this issue. And it really has nothing to do with playing basketball. It has nothing to do with you getting some free food stamps. None of that shit really got nothing to do with how you feel about what you're carrying and that sacredness of your womb, because we keep trying to generify that experience when it's something very sacred. Like
it's
the fact that
you about yourself. It's how you feel about yourself, because you're growing that within yourself, man. Like you are creating. You are literally, your womb is creating a life. And so if you feel as though life for you is a bunch of shit, what do you think you're going to push out? And that's why I said my last birth was my favorite. Because I told her, I was like, look at all that hollering you did. And she was like, where? She's like, I don't hear. I was like, because you hollered her in here. She's quiet. She's like, oh, I'm at peace. My mom did all that work. She did all that work, loved me and hollering me in here with all her strength. Come on. And here she comes, baby, quiet, eyes wide open, quiet. And I'm just like, because you brought her in here in the world hollering. So she already knew she was taking care of it. She hear her daddy voice, you got it. He hollering with you. Like, you know, I'm protected. I'm coming in easy. And like, and even seeing her on Instagram, I'm like, yeah, that's a happy baby. That's a big 10-pound happy baby, you know? And not thinking that you do it because you have a C-section first. It's how you feel. And I told her, I was like, everything you did when I asked you to, have you been talking to your belly? Have you been speaking to your child? Have you been speaking to yourself in your womb? Like, I can do this. Have you been affirming yourself? What music you've been listening to uplift you? Like, that all plays a role when you're in that time and even before you're in that time. Because everything that you do and everything that you touch, feel, your senses, they grab onto that. So if you're not putting good food in your tummy, if you're not talking good conversation with people, if you're not around those who love you, who are affectionate, then you're not going to feel that way about your birth. You're not going to feel that way about yourself. And that's how everything just spirals. When I started looking at infant mortality rate, what scared me the most was the injuries. And I'm just like, I had to immediately stop. I'm just like, ooh, if you don't want it, please give it to somebody that do. Because there's some people who can't. So that one is the major area that hurts me. So I always talk about, are you sure you're ready for this? If you're not, there are many options, but are you sure you're ready for this? Like, that's a conversation that needs to be had too, because that's part of infant mortality rate, people killing their children. Let's talk about that too. I'm sorry, but that's real as well. So it's like, you know, and little things that you need to know. Okay, nothing needs to go in the crib. Lay your baby on its back. Tummy time is only when you have time to watch them as well. And then I'm like, and even mom nowadays don't know about tummy time. I'm like, that's how you want your baby to pick up its head and look at you. You know, that's how you get the motor skills functioning. Like, you gotta, and some women may not have the time because the jobs they work, but you gotta make time for something as important as that.
I know. Brother Jesse, who is a doula, Says getting men, brothers, uncles, etc., to be present and involved with the birth is key too. Most
Yes.
of the clients I work with birth alone. That is so true. And you know, one of the favorite births I've ever been to, I went to a home birth with my homegirl Javon and Satu at this couple's house, and it was such a beautiful birth. But what was amazing to me is that when the baby came out, they laid the baby on the father because they had to clean the mom up. And the baby, it was just so beautiful. So he was right there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the dad was like, you know, they were all in the bed. It was just so beautiful. Like, it was, I mean, and I also think at some point we have to figure out how to have this conversation around infant mortality with boys and men.
Yes.
So I'm not leaving them out at all. I always feel like, who the first person I got to talk to me is going to be the girls. But I also know boys need to get that too, and men, because hopefully one day boys will grow up to be men who have children. You know what I mean? Or maybe they can educate other boys and men who don't know. But they gotta know about it too, because I think there's key when you feel supported. That's why it takes the two of you to create it. To have to create that being. So I definitely think we definitely got to talk about that. But I'm right there with you.
Yes, definitely. Correct mom in the turn those negative thoughts into positive always. But I'm all for that. That's why I love when they be like, I'm like, is your baby, excuse me, I was like, is the father of your child coming? I start with that. Oh no, my fiance, my husband, or that's just my baby daddy. Okay, whatever you want me to call him. Is so can I talk to him? I make sure I interview. I tell them, I'm like, I have to talk to you, but also I have to talk to the father of the child. I want to see where their mind is at so I can know what support you truly need, like, and what other things you need from me. So what aspect of do I need to actually put into? Because if I know there's going to be a man in the room, okay, come watch me. You want to rub her feet like this. You want to make sure you're rolling her like this. Ask her, go check on her real quick and see if she needs any ice or anything. You know, because that helps with that. Again, that's just the birthing experience itself. But actually talking to them like in the middle of developing the child, it's just like, well, where's your head at? How are you feeling about this? Like, are you excited? What's going on? You know, because you got to see like both parties. Like you said, you took the time to create it. You're also going to take this time, these years you're together to raise it as well. So I need to know where you're at in this headspace because she's going to need you. Right now, this time is about her, but it's also about you. That's why postpartum care is so important as well. Because I've read statistics in regards to a lot of marriages falling apart because of postpartum care, like a breastfeeding regimen or all of this, or like, you know, that wasn't ready or equipped for it. So I'm just like, that's crazy. Like, seriously, after like, but it does get that hectic. So preparing you for, all right, you're going to be tired. You're going to be very tired. Can you adjust your time at work? What can you do to make sure it's balanced? Like, having those conversations are essential for our brothers, our kings, and you feel me, uncles, grandpas, you know, anybody that wants to take care and assist, they got to have those conversations too to understand it's what the mother needs and it's also what the baby needs. So
I think we got to normalize that with Black men as well. We got to normalize that. I think for some young people, they didn't really know much about doulas and stuff until Love and Hip Hop person, I can't remember her name, if it was Love and Hip Hop, got pregnant, and she was Jocelyn. And I had girls in my class asking me, like, what is that? And I was like, wow. I said, oh, Jocelyn got a doula or something. Because I don't watch the show, I don't know. And I was like, wow. Like, she just took a whole bunch of people, you know, on a ride to discover what that is. And maybe that'll be an option for them one day when they have a child.
Exactly.
Like, to really think about that.
Yeah, I'm never mad when celebrities put the good stuff out there. I'm just like, make sure you're doing it in a light that's not trendy.
It was trendy because some people
I know, but that's why I'm like, sometimes I'm like, it's out there, but is it just going to be trendy now? Or are you going to actually use it for your benefit, you know? And I always give people time to educate. So I'm like, okay, if you got to learn a little further down the line, that's cool. But as long as it's in there, that means it's going to float. And I love people who like to do research because when they research, it gets a little deeper. I'm just like, yes, okay, they're liking it. Yay. So, because I told, again, my last mom, I was like, yeah, do affirmations. Affirmations? I was like, yeah, girl. She's like, I'm going to look that up. Man, she texted me a couple hours later, like, oh, I made this list. And I was like, yeah, excited. Good. Okay.
That's I know. So, sis, as we wrap up, thank you, first of all, for joining me today. This is a great conversation. And it's interesting because we talked about infant mortality, but I think it's a whole bunch of other things that you have to talk about in order to really get the idea or the scope of what infant mortality is. And I think sometimes people don't think Black folks are capable of connecting those dots, even though we connect the dots every day. So we
Mm-hmm.
know if we have, like I found out yesterday that I guess in San Francisco, as they're defunding the police, Black women will be getting something like $1,000 a month while they're pregnant because that helps them to have better pregnancy. Yeah, girl. And I
Okay.
was like, okay, because we know
Okay,
that one of
right.
the key factors to your stress is money and
Yeah.
having money to take care of yourself. Now I
Yeah.
don't know what $1,000 to do in Frisco because the shit is so expensive.
And that's why I was just like, ooh, but in Frisco, that's still not.
Yeah, unless you in public housing or something, they're not gonna tax your money. I don't know, but I feel like it has to start somewhere, and it's a different way of looking at it. It's not about you going to the doctors. Like it's just not that.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know what I mean? It's just not. Well, if you come to all of your doctor's appointments, I've heard somebody say something dumb like that before. I was saying to myself, we have no idea what it means to be a Black woman pregnant and have to deal with all the bullshit that get thrown at us every day,
Okay.
inside and outside.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you suggest people can do to educate themselves more about infant mortality? And if a person is pregnant, what can we do what can you say to help them ease how they're feeling? Because that's heavy for you to think about when you're pregnant.
Definitely. I would suggest when researching or looking up infant mortality, don't focus so much on the numbers, especially if that's what's going to throw you off. Just read the little excerpts or start with the pure definition and go from there. So once you digest the pure definition of what infant mortality rate is, understand what that is, and I would then just look at the definition and provide your own solutions for that. So think of, well, how can I, instead of being scared about it, well, how can I make sure to prevent this? Let me look at what I'm doing now and how I'm moving in, read different articles on, well, I believe it was because, I worked this hard or was working 2 or 3 jobs. Nobody's telling you to stop working or quit your job, but be more considerate that you're carrying a life now. You're making room for 2. It's 2 of you. It's you, yourself, and then it's the baby. So it's like, just look at the simplicity of infant mortality. Not saying it's a simple thing, but look at the simplicity. Start at the definition, work your way through the causes of that. And then once you have a grasp on that, look at your situation, your surroundings, and say, well, if this can affect this, what causes birth defects? You have to be inquisitive about it. You have to want to know first. You have to want to understand. And once you understand, then you can go with the solutions. Well, I know I have, high blood pressure. And so they're saying that I have to do this or be on this diet. Well, let's see how I can do that. Okay, I heard it says, but my grandmother always told me this. Let me look up some different things. You know what I'm saying? So, how can I not have such a low birth weight or, carry the full term? Sometimes those things are inevitable, but don't be so caught up in what is negative about infant mortality rate or let it scare you. Because infant mortality is real, but don't let it scare you and put you in a fear that it can happen, because anything you imagine can happen. So don't imagine it. Imagine that, no, my baby's going to be good. I'm going to do this. Like, you have to start speaking that. You have to start talking to your child. They hear you. That's why when they hear a voice that they love so much, they look and they like, who is that? I know that voice. Like, my mom kicked my auntie out the room for that particular reason. Like, then talk to your child. Talk to yourself. Encourage yourself. That's important. But start off small and then work your way into solutions. Start off small. Just read the definition, read the causes, and work your way from there. That's it.
Right on. Right on. Thank you, dear sis. I am
Thank
so
you.
grateful for joining us on Sunday Sit with Sisters. We talking infant mortality, y'all. She gave us great information. Y'all should be looking this up. Follow up with her. What is your information, dear sis? How can people reach
definitely. Let me see. So you can follow me on Facebook, Aldisha Thompson Smith. So you should not spell Thompson, THOMPSON. I'm on Instagram, Gifted Generations, and those are the 2 individual places that you can find me. So I'm open and always ready to talk. Yes.
Right on.
Thank you, Bessie. Appreciate you.
So, family, I will be back with you all tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. as we're going to be discussing, this is a special kind of report. So I guess there was a letter that was sent to the organizers of the Sacramento Women's March.
Okay.
And some Black women responded with, ain't I a woman? Yes, I am. And we kind of done with y'all. So the organizer had agreed to come on and talk about what happened and make her apology more public. But also we'll be joined by Dr. Flo and Sister Sonia Lewis. So and we're going to get to the bottom of this because, you know, we talk a lot about solidarity,
Right.
but when we don't do things that's in solidarity, then, you know, we got to talk about that.
That
And
part.
we know historically,
Right.
we'll end up in places with people, but then they only treat us the way that they men treat us anyway. So
Yeah.
we need to talk about that. So I'll see y'all all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Hold on, sis. Let me get us up out of here.
Okay. Peace, y'all. Have a good one.
Family. And happy Lover's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
I love you. Put that heart up there.
Oh yeah, it got to with the nails.